Hey everybody, it's Charles from HumbleMechanic.com, and today I'm going to show you how to completely restore the heater box in your car. This is the HVAC box out of my GTI, and this is the box that houses the heater core, the evaporator core, as well as all the doors that control the air movement for your air conditioning and heat. And over time what happens is the foam that covers the blend doors that direct the airflow, it breaks down and actually blows out of the vents and hits you right in the face. Today I'm going to show you how to fix that so it doesn't happen anymore and hopefully never happens again. There's a couple of main goals that we have here, and that is going to be to fix the holes in the blend doors, to clean everything. You're going to be amazed at how dirty this box really is, and we'll be installing a new heater core because the original one in the car actually broke and it turns out it was leaking anyway. The steps I'm going to show you today can be used to do this on pretty much any vehicle. As far as the products go, this is what I found to work really, really well. There are many other products that you can use in order to do this job. I will put links down in the description to everything that we used. Before we can do any of this work, step one is going to be removing it from the car. And this will probably be the most miserable part of the entire job. Next, we're going to have to strip everything we can off of the box. And this is going to let us split the cases in half to remove and recover the doors. There is a method of doing this where you don't need to remove the entire box to fix these doors, but because the car needed a heater core anyway, I went ahead and did it like this. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments and I may do a shorter video showing how to do it without taking this stuff out of the car. Now, we are going to need to split this section of the box.
The trick here, get a flat blade screwdriver, come from underneath it, put your thumb on it, and then just slowly rotate and lift it up. That way the clip doesn't go shooting off of the box.
I found that heating it up slightly can actually help the box come apart. Here you're going to want to be very gentle with the screwdriver to release these clips. We do not want to break them. Applying a slight amount of pressure and a slight amount of twist is the best method I've found. While repairs to the box can be made, that's way more work than just taking your time. Work your way around the box, releasing the clips as you go. Now very carefully and slowly pull the box apart.
Okay, now that we have the box entirely disassembled, or at least the two have split, it's time to do some cleaning. All down inside of this box is just filled with the foam that didn't blow out of the vents. Right. Got the boxes all cleaned. I actually just took them to the kitchen sink and washed them with a little dish soap. Of course, I didn't film that because we don't want Mrs. Humble to be mad at me. Next up is going to be to clean the doors, and this is where we really need to put the bulk of our work in. The better job we do getting any of this residual adhesive or grease or grime off, the better our foam and our tape is going to stick. So if you need to, use a scraper. Next, we're just going to use some adhesive remover to get any glue off of that piece. This stuff works really well, but make sure you're using it in a well-ventilated area. If you find that you're not able to get some of this old adhesive off or you can't get it clean, just take a bit of sandpaper and just scuff it up a little bit. We'll clean it one more time, but we really do want to do a thorough job cleaning this. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap the door to cover up these holes. I picked this up from the local hardware store. It's kind of the high grade stuff. I spent the extra couple dollars on it because I don't want to have to do this again. Before we go wrapping the door with that foil tape, we want to make sure we take into account where these little holder pieces are for the bushings, where it goes inside the box. So what we can do is we can install the bushing, take a permanent marker, and just kind of mark where we want to make sure we don't put any foam or foil tape. Any which way you want to do this is cool with me. I just like to have as few pieces as possible. You don't even really need to cover the entire door. As long as these three holes are covered, try to touch the sticky part as little as possible. So there's one piece. Next, take the roll, lay it out. The goal here is to have the seam of this piece meet at one of the holes. It's going to stick a little bit better doing it that way. So we'll have it meet right about there. Cut it. That's about what we're going to be covering here. You do want to make sure, though, that you overlap these two pieces. Now, before we put this last bit on, we're going to take some adhesive promoter. All that is just this little sponge. We're going to put a little bit on it, let that sit about a minute, and then fold it over and seal it in. All right, it's been about a minute. You can even take something and smooth it out if you'd like. I like to use the back of my fingernail. Now, if you want to stop there, you're good to go. The doors are actually sealed. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to foam the edges. So I've tested a lot of different foams, and so far I think what's the best solution is this foam from the hardware store. And the reason I like this is it's got adhesive all the way to the edges, so it's going to make it stick a little bit easier when we wrap it around than some of the other stuff that's out there. There are a ton of different solutions that you can use, so just use whatever you have at your disposal. Anything's going to be better than having the holes in it. Now, when we install this, we're going to put it so that it comes up above the door just a little bit like that, about 2 millimeters. That way it drags the bottom of the box and seals it up a little bit better. If you want to go a little bit further, that's okay too. You can always trim it down if you need to. And to make this a little easier, elevate it a little so that we can get to all the sides. So we need to put our adhesive promoter on. Next, we're going to kind of measure out, wait about 30 seconds or so, minute for our adhesive promoter. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lay it down, give it a good squish, and then just kind of fold it over. You can see I cut it a little long. We'll come over on this side, squish it again. So we can take our razor knife, cut it, pull the paper backing off, give it some more squish. And that's really all we need to do. So we got one side of the door. Let's go ahead and do the other side, same way. Adhesive promoter, wait about a minute, and then put your foam on. For our final step, we need to cover this edge of the door as well. And we're just going to follow the same protocol. Adhesive promoter, wait about a minute, roughly measure out. Now, this one's going to be a little bit trickier because we want to make sure we try and split the door so we have about even amount on both sides. And go ahead and fold it. Now this one's going to be the one that if anything has the potential to come off, it's going to be this one. So we want to do a really good job holding that down on there for a few seconds to make sure it gives it time to adhere. In fact, it might even be better putting it on a flat surface. You could even do something like that. And then if there's anywhere that needs to kind of be massaged in, once you get it on there, guys, that's all you need to do. That's it. That's how to seal the door. And if you need to trim anything off the edges, go ahead and do that. Now, that was just one of 3 different doors that need to be resealed. You can see all the foam came off of this one. It's going to be the exact same process for doing all the rest of them. The only thing on this one might be a little bit different is that the foam we may need to trim a bit differently, perhaps lay it on and use a razor knife to cut the rest of that off. There's also some felt at the back. This is actually on there pretty well, so I'm not going to mess with that. But we will clean up this entire door and get all this stuff off of there. Now we're cleaning plastic here, so we need to be a little more careful with the chemicals that we use. Another option is to use something like a plastic scraper. And as long as it's safe for plastics, you can use a bit of chemical treatment. Hit it with a little adhesive promoter. You can either flip it over here or cut it. I'm going to cut it. Then we'll do the other. And this time we'll just get our box cutter blade and cut it. There we go. Got it refoamed. Can drop it in for a quick test fit. Looks like she's going to fit just fine. And we only have one left to do. This one actually still has some foam left on it. So you can see sort of what this looked like before all the foam blew off the doors. That's how we kind of knew to go over a little bit on our doors. So we're going to follow the same exact process we did for these. All right, now we got all the holes nice and covered on this door. It's time to put the foam on. Unlike the other doors, we are going to cover this entire thing with foam. Start with our adhesive promoter. Now, we have a little bit more foam at the top here than we really should, probably about twice as much. We'll squeeze it really tight so we can see the difference in height. And then we'll just go ahead, trim it. This is where I went edge to edge. I didn't really like that, so the rest of them I kind of wrapped it around, putting the seam right here, which I think works a lot better. Finally, all we really need to do is put a little foam here and a little foam here, and we're done. There we go, got it on both sides, and we're done. Now that we have all three of our heater core side doors re-foamed, it's time to do some test fitment and make sure everyone's going to be happy. We will grab the lower portion of our box. We'll fit this door in here. So this door will make this movement. We'll drop this door in here. This door moves up and down. And then of course this is our front door. Everything looks like it works pretty well. We're gonna take everything back out, clean the box one more time, lubricate all of the pieces that move and rotate inside the box, and put this thing back together. Before we do that really quick though, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a minute to clean all the little dowels off, and then we'll go ahead and lubricate those. You can, if you want, drop a little dot of glue inside of there so that the door doesn't ever fall out of place. That wasn't really a problematic thing with this generation. What we'll do is we'll take a little white lithium grease. That'll help the doors move a little bit smoother. They are greased from the factory, just enough to keep it smooth. Go ahead and grease up. You can just put the grease right in. Put a couple dabs more. Put this one on here. And now all we have to do is snap the box together, and we can test the operation of all the doors and just push the box together, working your way around nice and slowly. We got the box together. We can take the arm at the bottom, move each door through its motion, and we'll test the seal of it once we get the whole box done. We'll actually hook the blower motor up, make sure that everything seals properly. It's time to put our new heater core in. Now, the old one had a little strip of foam right around this lip, which rides right here on the box. It's up to you if you want to put that in or not. We can take some of our foam we use for our doors and just cut it into strips and run it around the outside. So you'll just have something that looks kind of like that. You don't really need to worry about how sticky it is or use adhesive promoter, because these clips and a screw are going to hold this heater core down. So you should have something that looks kind of like this. Then all we need to do is just drop it down in. You might need to tuck your seal back down just a little bit. We'll go ahead and put our screw in. Remember, there was just one screw in this. All right, so now we have our heater core. It's installed. We got our gasket around there. Okay, so this is the other side of the heater box. This is the side that houses the evaporator core as well as the blower motor. And the only door that's inside of here is the one for the recirc. But since we have all this apart anyway, we're gonna go ahead and clean this up and fix it. So we had to remove a screw from right here on this cover, which sits like that. And then we need to take this piece off to separate the two houses. That just pops right off. And now we're good. So this is another reason why we're taking all this apart, is to clean all this gross, nasty stuff out of here. We do this one just like we did all the rest. It's time to go ahead and put the box cases back together and give it a quick test. Now, we can put all the clips in, but I'm actually just going to leave these two in. If we get a little bit of air leak here, it's not a big deal because we know we're going to seal that back up. All right, our next step, we're going to put the blower motor back in, and it did have this little foam gasket, so we'll go ahead and put that back in too. Now, you'll notice there's a little strip missing right here. I'm just going to put some of our foam that we used on the doors in there. And that should be enough to seal that tiny little gap. Now, I did spend considerable time cleaning this, which I highly recommend. It was pretty nasty. It's time to do some testing and make sure we got everything sealed. Now I have my power probe hooked up to the vehicle in order for us to be able to power the fan and test our box. You could simply just do this with jumper wires, but I like the circuit protection that the hook provides. We're gonna check for air movement out of our box. Now, you can't see the air movement, of course you can hear it, so we're going to use this towel. So we have air coming out of here. Let's close that door, and we can lay it down there. There is a tiny bit of air coming out of it, but not that much. We'll do the same thing at the bottom. We have just a little bit of airflow. Remember too, this is on full speed, so this is gonna be the most air that ever moves through it. Now I'm noticing when we close this door right here, we're still getting a pretty good amount of air movement through it. So I think what we're gonna do is put another piece of foam right about here in an effort to seal up this door a little bit better. I don't think that's necessary, but I'm gonna try it just to see if it seals a little bit better. Get that piece of foam nice and tight. We're still getting a little bit of air coming out, but that's way better than it was before. And I think that's gonna be good for me. If you wanted to keep going and reseal this entire thing so no air came through, you could definitely do that. But for my needs, I think that's gonna be just fine. Okay, now that we've tested our box and everything seems to be sealed up pretty well, it's time to take the two case halves apart again, seal up this gasket right here. Truth be told, I think we could probably get away without doing it all together, but I don't wanna get it back together and have a really bad noise. Now, if you'd rather use something like adhesive caulk to fill this gap in, I think that's totally fine. We're gonna be using that butyl tape or that butyl cord. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll it in my hands like this, kind of stretch it out, and just, it doesn't need to fill the groove, just a small amount in there will help this box seal up really nicely. I'm barely using any of this at all. Even that little bit, which is about 1 inch, is gonna go a long, long way. And now we're gonna put the box back together and put all the clips on. Unlike the rest of the entire box, this portion is actually going to be pushed up against the body of the car, which means we don't have to spend a ton of time cleaning all of this old adhesive up. We just need enough adhesive to make sure it sticks until we get it in the car, because after that, it's gonna seal up all on its own. So we're gonna use the same tape that we used on it before, just cut it to size. We're actually going to double up on this portion here, so that it's a little bit thicker. We'll kind of do layer 2 the opposite way. Now that should seal up really nicely. If it gets a little tweaked, it's not that big of a deal. The pollen filter itself is sealed really well, so we don't have to worry too terribly much about it. So that brings us to actually being completed with sealing up this portion. We do have these pieces that we're going to need to re-foam as well. This piece and this piece. I am going to use a little bit different foam on these pieces, but before we do that, we got to get these things cleaned up so that we're not putting back these nasty, dirty parts. For these two pieces, the foam is a little bit different. There's actually two sections. One section that was on this piece, and then another section that seals the backside that's attached to the dash. For this one, there is the foam all the way around. Both of these, when they seal up into the venting of the dash. So we're gonna use something a little bit different. This is actually a bit thicker foam to go around these parts here. These are also pieces that we only need the adhesive to really hold enough to get it installed, and then because of the way the dash and the box are installed, it'll hold the foam on just fine. If you wanted to use an even thicker foam, you can use that with some double-sided tape. Next, we'll do our other piece here. And we'll follow the same procedure for this side.
All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Questions or comments, you know what to do. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, give it a share. Also, don't forget to subscribe right here on YouTube and ding that notification bell. You can also get updates on humblemechanic.com. If you want exclusive content, discounts you can't get anywhere else to places like Black Forest, MT Knives, Sonic Tools, Eastwood, and more. Check out the crew membership program. There's a link down in the description. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course on Snapchat. All of those are just at Humble Mechanic. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps, and I will see you next time.